Welcome to Viewfinder TV. Today, we will be covering student health interviews about student life topics, from inclusive Grandview housing to the mystery behind the student leader applicants, with our host, Linnea Heitala.
Hello everyone and welcome to Viewfinder TV. My name is Linnea Heitala and I'm reporting to you from the Grandview University campus, which has been seeing lots of progress as of late. As we near the end of the semester, Grandview students get stressed and sleep deprived. Odds are, if you're a student watching this, you're probably feeling a little bit of both. In our first segment, peer wellness advocate Amelia McDaniel shares her tips for better navigating a busy schedule.
My name is Amelia McDaniel and I am a team lead. This is my second year being a team lead for Peer Wellness Advocates. Peer Wellness is a leadership team on campus, and we also just offer support for students because college is a very stressful time. I can speak for myself personally, like my sleep schedule. It ebbs and flows, and I think that it can go for a lot of different students too. It kind of depends on, again, extracurriculars and then your class load, your workload. If your body is really tired, then sitting down on the ground and doing some stuff, or like maybe that is drinking some salt water to help with like the muscle aches, or just different things like that. Like just recognizing when your body is getting tired, and that also goes for regular students too. Recognizing when your body is tired and taking a break. That doesn't mean like it has to be an hour break or a 2-hour break to take a nap. That could be a 15-30 minute break of like watching an episode, just like de-stress. The first thing to go is always mental, I'd say, because if you're tired, then you're not 100% focused and you aren't 100% perceptive of what's going on around you. So when it comes to the sleep deprivation, it's gonna come through as stress first. The effects really are gonna be like just irritability, easily irritable, and then a lot of anxiety comes through that. When a student doesn't sleep well enough or they're not sleeping enough, it kind of goes back to that irritability, and it goes back to that lack of motivation. I think that lack of sleep is one of the biggest contributors to mental health issues. When you're not sleeping good enough and when you're not sleeping well enough, it transfers. People can tell. Starting the routine early or earlier, so that's like maybe taking a nice warm shower, doing a face mask, self-care, those things that like kind of just relax you. So like getting into that state of relaxation. So for some students and for some people, like melatonin works if you genuinely can't sleep. Something that has helped me like without melatonin is I like to try to read a little bit before I go to bed, just because the moving of my eyes constantly kind of begins to get my mind a little tired. But another thing that has always helped, and like what I kind of always recommend, is a sleep talk down. And I know they kind of sound a little off the wall, but they really do work. And it's this person who is like, I use Jason Stevenson if I really can't sleep he's on YouTube. It's a guided meditation sleep talk down. So I definitely think that sleep, mental, and physical health, they all are one big sandwich. And it all kind of starts with recognizing when you get tired and appreciating time for relaxation, I'd say.
Good stress and sleep management strategies are vital for long-term student success. Peer wellness advocates are just one place that students can turn to for support on campus. In our next segment, Pride Club President Katie Crowley shares their thoughts for promoting inclusivity on campus.
I think that it's important that our campus is a community where everybody feels safe and loved and welcomed and embraced to be exactly who they are and who they want to be. Gender-inclusive housing, well, it can look different depending on what school and campus you're going to, but basically gender-inclusive housing is housing that is provided for students regardless of their gender. it pretty much takes gender out of the equation, saying that like most room assignments are based off of like sex at birth. So gender inclusive housing is like, no, we're gonna base it off of gender. So you might have a co-ed. I know that there's some schools that have like non-binary rooms specifically. So it can look different depending on what campus.
And I know here at Grandview, the LGBTQA community continues to grow in size. How will this benefit them?
This will create safer housing opportunities for students. It'll help them feel more comfortable in themselves. It's also going to help non-queer students, because if you're not like if somebody wasn't comfortable with having me as a roommate because I'm queer and non-binary, I wouldn't want to be their roommate either. So it's going to be better for everybody.
If any, what are some of the negatives of this?
Well, I've been told that some of the Czech writing alumni don't enjoy gender inclusive housing, but I can't think of any negatives off the top of my head. There is the potential that if there ever was like a specific like LGBTQ floor, those have been targeted sometimes at other campuses. So it's really important that Grandview keeps in mind that gender inclusive housing is an ongoing conversation and topic that needs to be consistently reflected upon, so that way if things like that do start happening, that they can adjust as necessary for safety.
So what are some other things that can happen along the campus to further accessibility towards LGBTQA folk?
Well, another thing that happened actually last year on our campus in 2023 was the personal identity policy. So the personal identity policy allows for incoming students and current students to change their email address name. You can change the names that you have on like Blackboard and My GVU, and it also allows you to share your pronouns.
Before the gender inclusive housing came into effect, what was the policy beforehand regarding these issues and events?
To my knowledge, there wasn't really a policy. I also should clarify, I don't live in the dorms on campus, but I have talked to many different students, including past students that have already graduated and current students. To my knowledge, people would work individually with Robbie to see what they could do, just to see what the best situation and scenario would be for them. So I've heard very pleasant, positive things, but it's better to have an all-encompassing policy so that way it doesn't show any sort of like favoritism, or maybe people that aren't comfortable speaking to somebody in a one-on-one setting like that have the opportunity to also have gender inclusive housing. It's really good to just have a little blanket check mark, so then that way even allies can say, yeah, I'm cool having like a trans roommate.
One of the best ways to promote inclusiveness is to create open and honest conversations. In our next segment, psychology professor and host of the recent Be a Man seminar, Dr. Josh Woods, shares his insights into college students' relationships with masculinity and his hopes for a more supportive campus.
If a guy likes his face clean, why is that a bad thing? If a guy likes his nails not all fungusy as he goes on a beach vacation, probably a good thing. His girlfriend probably appreciates that. You know what I mean? Like, does that make you less of a man? And I just don't understand how that possibly can make you less of a man. My name is Dr. Josh Woods. I'm a professor in the psychology department. I have been at Grandview for, I've been saying 9.5 years, but we're gonna have a ceremony to officially, by the end of the semester, it'll be a full 10 years. Yes, so a student in my sports psychology class, he organized the Be a Man event. And my understanding is that the motivation came from a concern of his about male suicide rates and that we don't talk about it enough. And so he had some statistics he wanted to share. He had Dr. Z who had some statistics that he wanted to share, and asked me to just talk about the psychology of masculinity. And so he invited me to come be a speaker, and so that's how I got involved. My first reaction when Hunter asked me to speak at Be a Man was just admiration, just absolute, you know, the thing I love the most about my job is being impressed by students on a regular basis, and him organizing. I know it wasn't just him; it was a group of guys, but him leading the way. It's vulnerable to ask me to come speak. Even though he knows me and I hope I'd built trust with him over the time. It's vulnerable to create a situation like that, an event like that, where I noticed, and I didn't actually count the heads, but I noticed there was a lot of women that showed up and it wasn't even a lot of men, you know. And it could have been nobody that showed up, and he didn't know how many people would show up. And the room was, I think, about 3/4 of the way filled, but that's scary to do. So just absolute admiration, and he inspired me. Your strength comes from within, not not fabricated layers. And so if your courage and your strength comes from within, then you don't have to have the fake layers. Because a point that I made in the Be a Man speeches, I had them hold their chairs, and I had them hold it for a really long time. And if you wear this armor day in and day out, you get tired of wearing the armor. Pretending like they do not have emotions or things don't bother them, or, you know, how often do guys come to each other and be like, let's have a crucial conversation, you know? I think being afraid to talk about things that don't involve the stereotypical things. I think being afraid to admit that you don't. I teach sports psychology. I love sports. I watch as much sports as I possibly can, but I have 3 little girls, and so I sometimes even feel intimidated talking to other guys about sports, and they're mentioning people in the NFL, which I follow very closely, but I'm like, I have no idea who they're talking about, and I'll fake that I don't know who that they're talking about, you know? So why not just say, I don't know who that is, and then let them teach me, because honestly, I usually do want to know who it is, but we have to pretend like we've got the answers. So I think the armor that we wear is pretending to be who we want to be rather than just being who we actually are. I think the things men are afraid to admit to others, I think is really that idea that we're scared. A point that I made, and I totally stole this from Brene Brown, who has made this term vulnerability famous. So this is not my idea, I stole it. But this idea that strength and courage is not being vulnerable and not being afraid, I think is the exact opposite. I think being vulnerable and being afraid and trying to do it anyways, and sometimes that's going for that girl, sometimes it's going for that job, sometimes it's having a tough conversation with somebody and saying, look, this really hurt my feelings when you said that. I think admitting that we get scared too is not something that is easy for us to do. What are some outlets that men have a resource? That's a really good question. I think men talking to other men is some of the best things we can do. So that's usually going to come in the form of men that you trust. And again, that can come in the form of best friends, but that can come in the form of professors and students and coaches and athletes. But I think probably the best outlet for men is other men. I think women can be supportive in that process as well, but I think having women support, actually I might pull back in what I was just saying. I think it's equally important, because there is a notion from both men and women that our job is to be strong and sort of the knight in shining armor, and we better save the day and we should never be vulnerable. And I think a mindset change of vulnerability equals strength is an important part of the process.
A passionate student body is a student body with a voice. In 2024, Grandview reported fewer students signing up for leadership positions than in previous years. Grandview is full of advocates, so where are the student leader applicants? In our final segment, Associate Dean of Students Heidi Pries shares her theory.
With leadership specifically, I think it's just really fun to see how students grow and mature and take on things and come up with new ways to do things and new ideas of activities, and just how creative our students can be in those leadership roles and how much passion they can bring to those roles that they have. And so for me, it's fun to get to know students that, like I said, come into campus maybe a little unsure of themselves or not very confident, and leave really confident in their skills and abilities. And I think student leadership can bring that to them. I think there's a number of reasons that applications could be down. In our office, we had some turnover within the leadership program, so I'm new at overseeing leadership this year. Last year, we had a person that was kind of part-time that came in and only worked like 1 day a week here doing leadership. And so leadership kind of, I don't know, wasn't as visible on campus, I don't think. And so new students that started out last year probably didn't see a lot with leadership. Then I started into this role late July, and so that didn't give me a lot of time to get going. I mentioned that I advise the student leadership team, and they really support the other 9 leadership teams, and so they oversaw the leadership application process, and we have talked already a lot about how we can improve things for next year to try to get more students involved in leadership. And even just today, I reached out to a student who is on student leadership and has a passion for doing videos and different things. And so already we have an idea of ways that we can really incorporate student leadership and give a taste of student leadership to our new students that are starting next fall. I think we're going to really focus more on the personal ask and then just getting the word out and really highlighting the fun things that our student leaders are doing. So students realize that they're actually missing out on something that's really cool. So the beauty of student leadership is there is 10 different positions on student leadership, or 10 different groups, and then within those groups there's positions. And so there's a variety of time commitments within those 10 positions. Leadership can help with time management because obviously you have meetings and events that you're planning, so you have to plan those around your class schedule if you're a student athlete, around those schedules, and so that it helps with that. It obviously helps with your communication skills, and then meeting with alumni and doing some networking that way. There's a lot of skills that you can develop, and then obviously when you go to graduate and you're looking for a job, all of those people that you've met along the way and your networking from student leadership can help you when you're looking for a job or an internship. I think it really helps. We've been talking a lot this year in the department that I work in student life and across campus about really creating a sense of belonging here at Grandview, and that we want students to feel like they belong. And so part of creating a sense of belonging is creating a culture on campus that is vibrant and exciting, and a place that people want to be, the place that people want to stay on the weekends because there's stuff to do. And so that goes back to our student leaders. Like, our student leaders are responsible for creating a lot of those activities and being creative and coming up with new things and putting themselves out there. And some of that is risk-taking. So trying new things. Sometimes it's scary to try new things because you're afraid that it might flop. But taking risks and realizing, oh wow, this really does work. And so I think that impacts all of student body. I graduated from Grandview many, many years ago, and I was a student leader here. And I did not go to college to work at a college someday, but I kind of fell in love with student life and student affairs and thought, oh, you can do that as a job. And so now that I've been in my job for a long time, I've seen Grandview grow, the culture change quite a bit. We're much more of a residential campus now than we were when I was a student here. And so it's just fun to see the vibrancy of campus and getting students involved in attending events and things like that. That's kind of one of my favorite parts of my job, is just to see the growth that a student has when they get connected and involved in something on campus. And I also think socially, if you're somebody that has struggled to kind of meet people, socially leadership can really help. I always kind of smile the first time we get View Crew together, because that's one of the larger leadership teams that we have, and there's about 20 students on View Crew, and they are supposed to represent kind of what our campus looks like. And so a lot of times those students don't know one another when they get into the room, and then it's funny because by the end of August, when they've spent a lot of time together, they're really tight, and some of them, it's their best friends that they've met and never would have met them had they not done leadership.
Thank you to Viewfinder producers for creating and sharing these video interviews, and thank you to the featured leaders who are harnessing change on the Grandview campus. And thank you for tuning in. My name is Linnea Heitela, and this has been Viewfinder TV.